Ooh, that's some sexy disemboweling right there. Look at the arterial spray on that baby. Whoa, hey folks, how are you all? Hope you're doing very well. Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. Who remembers that? Fangoria, yes. Late 70s, throughout the 80s, into the 90s, even probably today, I'm not too sure. Fangoria has kept alive the cult, gore-cherished classics of the jaded palate, as well as all the proper masterpieces of the genre, your likes of The Exorcist, your likes of The Shining. Fangoria magazine really came into its own when celebrating pure exploitation, cheapo creature features, gore classics, Lucio Fulci, zombies, werewolves, just they celebrated special effects, practical makeup effects, really promoting the directors of these low budget exploitation quickies, elevating them to some quite cult status, and of course all the special effects crews that worked on them. So you'd have endless pages devoted to prosthetics and air bladders, and you'd be introduced to the likes of Dick Smith, the KMB group, Tom Savini, Carl Fullerton. You'd hear all about these makeup supremos, Rob Bottin and Rick Baker. Of course. Now, Fangoria, it became as infamous as the movies it celebrated. Its fantastic covers. When you're folding them out, in a lot of the earlier 80s issues, you had the Scream greats, and so I've got some of those old, really worn down and dog-eared now copies, and I've taken out the front pages, the cover, and put those posters up along the walls. And they do stand the test of time when these films like The Funhouse was just coming out and just being celebrated by Fangoria in America, and yet hadn't even made the journey across the Atlantic to Blighty. But anyway, Fangoria, you love it. Now, they did, on the coattails, the bloody coattails of their success and their notoriety within the industry, did have a great idea. Let's make our own movies. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make low budget in the Corman style, perhaps even a bit of William Castle style. Just get movies made which appeal to our major demographic, which would be teenage frat boys with boobs and blood on their brains. And yeah, so they started it in 1991 with, of all things, Mindwarp. Now Mindwarp, which has been quite hard to get hold of for many years, and it's a film that it's even less people talk about it than actually have it. So but this is the first one that Fangoria Films got off the ground, and they only made 3 movies because this creative endeavour was doomed to failure. It didn't really hit the high time. It didn't make them enough filthy lucre to carry on and make bigger and better movies. But that said, I've got to admire anyone that tries to get a movie off the ground. Now, I saw this back in the day, and 1991 this was, and I saw it pretty much straight away. We played the London Film Festival, and I got a bootleg copy of it as well. And really speaking, I was like, what? Is that it? And it's been many years since I've watched it, and Eureka in the UK have just put out an uncut copy on Blu-ray. Yes, and here it is now. And you're thinking, Eureka? Why would you put out like a gross out gore, dystopian future, renegade, low budget hackfest? Why would you do that? Well, Eureka do put out quite a lot of, low budget horror movies, usually vintage variety. So this is just the same sort of thing, but as the vintage classics, just released many, many decades later. So, Mindwarp, what the hell is it? That dystopian future thing I just mentioned, yeah, that's what figures in here. It's after a nuclear war, an apocalypse, the ozone layer is depleted, and you have 2 classes. You have in-world and out-world. The out-world is a ravaged, barren wasteland, all filmed around Lake Michigan and the frozen wastes. Well, it's meant to be frozen, but actually they had the warmest winter ever of Wisconsin. So you've got a bleak landscape there, and If you get above ground, then you're scratting about in a fight for survival against the elements. But if you live below ground, you are a crawler, a mutated cannibal. Yes, it's one of those movies, folks. It's absolutely packed to the rafters with big baggy face prosthetic bit parters who are chewing on appliance hands and fingers and arms down in the catacombs beneath the wasteland. But then you have in-world. And in-world is where the elite survivors of this apocalypse reside. Not sure exactly where that is, because that's how the film starts off. You just have people who, with sort of bioports in the back of their neck there. Sounds familiar? Yeah, sounds familiar. This film started it. So, as cheap, as low budget, as perhaps foolhardy as this endeavour may have been, it was really innovative and it influenced a lot of big movies. The Matrix, eXistenz, Strange Days, perhaps. They owe a lot to this movie. So, the elite live in these luxurious apartments. Well, actually, they're very Spartan apartments, but I think they're meant to be luxurious, with fictitious views outside the viewport windows of luxurious Eden gardens, when really it's just a barren wasteland out there. And they spend all their time just plugged in to Infinisynth, which is a virtual reality system where they are allowed to play out their dreams and fantasies, and they live, I'd say, 99% of their life in this environment, this virtual reality environment. Now bear in mind, this is 1991, this is way before the likes of The Matrix. And this is all overseen by some omnipresent being lit up in a dark room where you have to walk through puddles to get close to them, lit up by lights and got a big sort of scrambled egg light show on top of their head. You know, some kind of oracle type thing that controls it all. But into this environment you have a mother and daughter, and Judy, played by Marta Alicia, is getting a bit sick of this existence because they just wake up, take the port out, go and do some exercises, have some slop, because everything's on tap for them. They have little robots scurrying around the ground, picking up all the debris and rubbish. They don't need to do anything really. It's just existing, it's not living, is it? And then they get a little cup of sludge and then they go back and plug themselves in again. So she gets sick of this and begs for something different. I want to see the outside world, I want something different, I want some excitement. There's got to be more than just this. You know, it's that precocious girl that dreams of something beyond that horizon. So, she's allowed to go out into the outside world, the outworld. And straight away we are flung into a sort of exceptionally low Mad Max scenario where you have mutants in what was meant to be snowmobiles, but as I said before, they picked a time when the winter didn't supply much in the way of snow. So they've got no snowplows, they couldn't afford them anyway. They've got one tractor with these mutant creatures riding it round like it's some kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland jalopy. They go after her, but she's saved by Stover. Stover, you say? Who's Stover? Stover is one of these topside living renegade warrior types. The Patrick Swayze from Steel Dawn, but played by, you know it, Bruce the Chin Campbell. Yes. Repaying a debt to Fangoria magazine, he and the great Angus Scrimm. Angus Scrimm, the tall man from Phantasm. He's in here too. These two have pretty much given up any salary just to come and work for Fangoria, because Fangoria devoted so much time and coverage to their movies. They thought, well, look, it's payback time. We're going to come and work for you. Likewise, the KMB group, Robert Kurtzman, Howard Berger, Greg Nicotero. Yay! The KMB special effects group, who obviously Walking Dead and a gazillion other movies, and I've mentioned them a lot on the channel. They came in, stepped aboard and did all the makeup effects for it. So what you've got really, Stover comes in, saves Judith. Is it Judith or is it Judy? It's Judy. Got the names written here. Judy. And brings her back to this ramshackle little hovel on the side of a slurry pit and feeds her possum or something like that. Then he beds her, because in a post-apocalyptic world you get a lot of sex, quite honestly. You know, it's the best place to be. If you want to get laid, wait for the apocalypse, because anyone you come across, instant bedding, simple as job done. None of this courtship and wooing stuff taking place. Just shack up together and nothing else to do, is there? Because you haven't got Netflix. So, but they get attacked by these crawlers who come in through the walls, and these crawlers have this, you've seen this in movies as well, that they come up through the ground, but also in fact, that's in Steel Dawn as well, and they can drag people down in these sort of like chutes, and they come down into this warren, this subterranean warren, which is just a junkyard. As we find out, this is a landfill area. So all these cannibal mutants who are down there, they've been put to work by the seer. The seer? Topside, in world, you had like this oracle type person. And down here, this person sort of ruled over and looked after everybody, made sure it funneled all their dreams and fantasies, this person. The one with the scrambled egg light showing its head, whose face you couldn't quite see. More on that later. And but that down there, you've got the seer, who occupies the same sort of position. He reigns over all these people. This is played by Angus Scrimm in a big sort of Leatherface style hood mask thing, which is clearly made out of skin, and it's got eyeballs and stuff populating it. And he peers out through this cowl, this leathery hood, and he has rituals. He's given them religion. He's given them a reason to exist in the morning, to get up from their sludge pit. That's not, because this is a great big landfill area, as I said. It's a huge scrap heap. So they're burrowing around, working, toiling in the claustrophobic confines of this labyrinth. And they're just coming up with bits of carburetors, batteries, I don't know, a binatone, radio clock alarm, I don't know what the hell, all sorts of shit. And they take it to the sea, and he goes, oh, yes, we can chisel that down, there's a motor in there, we can use that. Oh, that's just, yes, that would make a good trophy. That, and it's someone's sporting prize, that's just trash. So he's overseeing all this, but he's giving them a religion, a belief. If they keep on working hard enough, even though if they fall behind they get flogged and beaten and possibly killed as well. Well, there's a lot of punishment down in these warrens. But there's a promise of we might be able to become dreamers, because that's what the other class is. The class that are in the apartments and plugged in, they are dreamers. So, and that's what everyone wants to be. Shades of rollerball there, you know, and you want to have the little tablet, the little pill, you know, that'll do to your moon pie. It'll make you dream. It'll make you dream you're an executive. But you know what executives dream of? They dream they're great rollerballers. So you've got this great dichotomy, which is a classical conceit, of course. Subterranean cannibals, a ruling elite above the ground. Didn't a certain Mr. Wells come up with something like this? Mr. H.G. Wells with the time machine? The Morlocks and the Eloi, very similar to that. Also, you have a kind of concept of the Wizard of Oz as well, where people are, maybe a different version exists down below. Again, I'll come on to this. And Judy Garland, the main character, Marta Alicia, has voyaged out beyond Kansas, pretty much, and found a whole new, horrible, I wouldn't say a wonderland, it's a wasteland! And she regrets it pretty quickly, because once they're dragged down into this warren, she and Stover, Bruce Campbell, he's beaten and put to work in the mines. She's dragged in to meet, what's the name of this one? Cornelia, played by Elizabeth Kent, who doesn't seem very mutated at all. In fact, seems very attractive. You know, rather gorgeous, dilapidated, post-apocalyptic MILF type quality. That was a bit difficult to say. I've got to put my teeth back in that. And she has it's bizarre. She has an accomplice, a daughter called Claude. When you first meet Claude, you think it's a boy. It's got a boy's name, Claude. It's a girl. but it's a very strange looking girl. And Judy notices that they've got the eXistenz stamp sort of on their body somewhere. So she's thinking, oh, there's a connection. These people are connected to eXistenz and all that, and they must know about the in-world and the dreamers, and oh, they must know something's going on. There's some kind of correspondence here. But she's abused as well, and she's dragged before the seer in his big leathery mask, and he clearly has ideas for this girl because she's a pure blood. She's not mutated like all the others. So, what to do with you? We witness an execution as well. They've got a big grinding machine. There's a sort of cathedral-like citadel centre with a big altar. It's no bigger than the room I'm in right now. But they fill it with all these mutated extras are all there. And they look like a little bit like the Day of the Dead zombies, because one of them's actually got an American football helmet on, like some of those have got other kind of gear and apparel on, and they all got different mutated faces. But what happens is anyone who has befallen foul of the seer ends up getting thrown onto a big junkyard conveyor belt. They pull down a big lever, and a big grinder starts up, and then they go into this, blood going everywhere, and it forms like a big gore fondue. All their innards and everything gets juiced up and tumbles down, and then using skull cups, literally, I've heard of skull caps, but these are skull cups, these mutants just dig in. Whoa. Just 1 second. Just realised I've got one myself. And they scoop in and glug, 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 they drink the blood and all that. Like. So yes, blood, folks. There's a lot of it in this. As you would expect from Fangoria-backed, produced movie. This is directed by Steve Barnett. Yeah, these names, you don't know them. Apart from Bruce Campbell and Angus Scrimm. That's pretty much it. But Steve Barnett had done... Why is my camera suddenly gone on a vicious angle like that? Excuse me, folks, while I readjust. This probably will not last too long. This will be a temporary fix, because on the little tripod here, it's blue tacked on because the little base gave way. So if this suddenly drops, hey, impromptu disasters. So, where was I? Yes. Glug, 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 yeah. And while I'm on the glugging subject, a bit nicer than blood. So, you've got this dichotomy, and oh yeah, Steve Barnett directed it. Sorry, I knew I was going with that now. You've never heard of him. I think he'd just done comedies beforehand, even working for Roger Corman, so he knew how to make quickie movies and to get over problematic but quick shoots and just improvise on the day. And he does, well, a workmanlike job. He'd not worked in horror before, but he saw this as a change of pace and just a different sort of style to get involved in. And the violence aplenty. The violence is pure comic book. But you've got Bruce Campbell running around in these warrens. And Bruce Campbell, folks, we love him. He's a genius. But he's a pantomime actor. He's almost like a mime artist. He's like from a silent movie, the way he performs. Everything is overacted. It's magnified. It's exploited. Huge style. When he runs down corridors, he will stop at the end and go, and then run down the next bit. He will always stop and exaggerate a movement, an expression, and it works here. Otherwise, he doesn't do a great deal. He just runs about. He will be put to work. He'll find a knife, a sharp edge, which he'll be able to cut himself free. He'll try to free the other people, the other mutants who are under the yoke and chain of this overseer. But he'll keep getting beaten for his troubles. He'll try to rescue Judy, who is going to be sacrificed as well at one point. And he runs in there, but he fails. He gets beaten down, and then they throw him into this sort of cesspit. You know what? The path of my life is strewn with cowpats from the devil's own satanic head. Everyone wants to interrupt. Stop now. Da 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 da. So, God, what further disaster is going to befall me now? The camera's falling apart. People are phoning me. It's blowing a hoolie outside, so you watch as the conservatory roof goes fucking flying off to Kansas as well. So, Bruce Campbell's Stover's trying to save her, failed. They throw him into the cesspit, and they've got these horrible little parasitic fish / eel / leech-like creatures which burrow into the skin, which cause the mutations in a lot of these other denizens of the deep. And once they get into the nervous system, they lull you into this sort of sense of like sort of orgasm, really. So they're actually enjoying the process of these other ones that have burrowed in and laying their eggs in there, which are mutating you. So, but anyway, so he's now undergoing this process. But it's still Bruce Campbell. He's still going to fight. You know it. Evil Dead. He becomes Evil Ash as well. So, you know, this is nothing new. A few little eel-like things. And this is reminiscent of the likes of the Deer Hunter with the bamboo cage and all that. And the great, is it Antonio Margheriti, The Last Hunter with David Warbeck, where they put him in the cages in the Vietnam movie as well, and they're getting eaten, and oh god, that's a bit grim. Bit reminiscent of that anyway. But, by the way, I'm playing John Carpenter's score for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Why? Because I haven't got the score for Mindwarp, which isn't very good, I'll be honest. It's completely forgettable, even while you're listening to it. So I just thought this would be nice. Sort of ambient background. But, so the film goes on, obviously. The seer is revealed to be the missing father of... Yeah, I know. Sorry, spoiler alert. Judy was missing her father back in the apartments of Inworld, the dreaming capital of the dream world. Infinisyn. And her father's gone missing. They don't know where he is. It happened years ago. So she has a little sort of name tag thing with his picture on, and she clings to that. But the seer, no great big shock really. That's her father. So when he reveals himself to her, when she's been saved from the grinder, he says like, no, look, this is my kingdom now. I was exiled from Infinisyn a while ago, and I found this place. I found them. It's like the Lord Humongous in Mad Max 2, of course, or even Immortan Joe in Fury Road. I found them, and I've given them a belief. I've given them something to dream of, a reason to exist, to work. I've given them hope, the carrot dangling before them. But it's all for nothing. There's nothing out there. I know, but it gives them a reason to be. It makes them subservient to me. Now, with you here, my beautiful daughter, you and I are pure bloods. We're not mutated. Do you think you know where he's going with this? Yes. He wants his daughter. But she ain't gonna do that. So more family disputes take place. Off she runs again. This Constance, is it Cornelia and Claude. Claude's been sacrificed, by the way. Claude's had one of her eyes gouged out. And this you think, oh, that's a kid, because Judy. Oh God. Judy has managed to persuade Claude to come onto her side. Look, this isn't right. Save me, come on, we can get out of here together. And Cornelia, who's the mother, so obviously has a relationship with the seer. She begins to see, look, you cost me, Claude. Because of you, Claude tried to save you, and now she's dead. A girl called Claude, I don't get it. So she attacks her, but Immortan Joe / Humongous / Angus Scrimm, the seer, comes in. They have a skirmish. He puts her on a meat hook and he throws her against the wall. She gets impaled on spikes, lots of spurts. And but Judy begins to go on the lam again. She'll go and free Bruce Campbell Stover, who's comes back to life. She manages to slice off all these leech things. A rebellion is reenacted. Well, a two-person rebellion. A big scrap at the altar takes place. And yeah, Angus Scrimm gets a boof, an uppercut, sends him down the conveyor belt. In he goes, grindy grind, and all his acolytes all come up, because when the blood comes down, we go and drink. But he's possessed by these leech-like things. So Judy goes on the run again. He goes after her with all that pantomimic stuff. Judy! He does it a lot in this, and it's great to behold. It's a pure mime performance. And he managed to go topside, but he begins to convulse on the ground. Judy, help me! We need to get to the outlands, across the dead lands. In that, well, there's a lot of lands in this. Inlands, outlands, deadlands. Oh God! And she runs back, and you think, don't do it, don't go back to him. And then just as she gets back to him, he goes, Judy, blah! And he throws up all these eels that have been given birth to inside, all these hatchlings, and a big welter of intestinal goo, and then just dies. And then they've got these sort of sacrificial bodies up on sort of like crucifixes in the desert. And she runs and looks up to one of them, and it turns out it's Bruce Campbell again. Judy, did you get what you wanted? Or whatever the hell he says, like. And then Judy wakes up, and she's back back in the Dreamland apartment. And that seer thing, that oracle thing with the buzzy scrambled egg thing, is revealed to be, it's her father. She never left there. He just gave her a taste of what really is out there. Judy, you've now learned what the world is all about. I've done my time now overseeing all the dreams and fantasies and desires and funneling it all and looking after the people. Now it's your turn. And that's it. You've got to question this. Why did Ed Father, who'd gone missing and took on this role of looking after, the elite, the ruling class, why did he then put this sort of fantasy dream inside her head where she would find him, her father, and he wanted to mate with her? To propagate a healthier race of beings out there in the wasteland. Why would you do that? That's gonna cloud anyone's judgment, isn't it, about their parental responsibilities and their whole family relationship. Folks, Mindwarp. I know this is on an angle now, and that camera's going to fall off again, and the phone will probably start ringing again. I seem to have been cursed with this one. It's great fun. It's daft as fuck. The first, say, 10 minutes where you get introduced, albeit in a very abstract, nothing's explained really about these dreamers and the way they're plugged in, these bioports in the back of the neck. Nothing's really explained about what that world is. That goes on, it seems to go on for ages, and honest to God, it's just in one room, and you're like, is anything going to happen? This is meant to be a gore classic. Well, once you get out and the gore takes place, yeah. Now, I will say that the gore, although everyone goes on about it, like, oh, this is one of the Fangoria gory movies. Yeah, there's a fair bit of, slice and dice and, intestines and stuff coming out. But don't go thinking this is anything shocking. It certainly isn't. And the KMB group are behind this, the effects, as I said, but they're not that great. Now, this may be down to the lighting and the very low budget feel, because the film is predominantly down in these warrens, these catacombs, which are festooned with bits of metal and machine parts and pipes and just the detritus of a human race long gone. So it's like a scrap heap challenge. It's very dark, there's lots of red tinting to it, but it feels very horribly confined and claustrophobic. And it is, but the camera work itself does not expand on this. It feels like a TV set, really, like some kind of avant-garde, outrageous TV show. So the gore takes place in very shadowy environments. You don't really get to see it, and it doesn't feel doesn't look like the best of the effects. Again, K&B probably took a very sort of low salary for this, doing it on the cheap just to help out Fangoria in return. So they haven't really done their best work on this, but it's splattery enough to keep you entertained. But once you've got through this movie, you kind of realise that as daft, as inane, as ultra low budget and cheesy and camp as this turns out to be, it's got a big influence. As I say, eXistenz, Strange Days, The Matrix primarily, but even the likes of Dark City, all of these sort of Ready Player One even, where you have people living a life vicariously in a virtual reality environment, just forgetting about what's really taking place. And this whole thing about the ruling class and like how they live above ground and the cannibalistic troglodytes live below ground, the mutants, the lower class, the wasted, degraded part of society. And yet even in that society, they have a hierarchy as well, which is exactly the same, where there's a class system there, and the higher caste will totally oversee and dominate the lower caste and use and abuse them. So it just filters through, it just feeds itself. So any kind of, the message, if there is any, is that any rebellion from the underclasses is gonna be doomed to the same sort of, finale, the same outcome. You'll still be ruled over. You'll still be underlings at the end of the day. But yeah, Mindwarp. I was going to go on a lot longer about this, but I've realised that camera is going to just go ping out of its little mount and probably hit me in the face, which would be a great effect, I'll be honest. Probably better than what you see in Mindwarp, but I'm going to cut it short there. Mindwarp, folks, from Fangoria Films, released on UK Blu, fully uncut by Eureka. There you go. And it's a grungy transfer. You couldn't expect anything more. It looks shady, smudgy, blurred, but that's the best you're going to get. It's ultra low budget, folks. Folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man, at the mercy of technology. Please, keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and I am going to see you all in a cannibalistic catacomb near you soon.